let me make sure the mic is working. It sounds like it is, and I need to start my my presentation from the first slide.
Yes, you drive.
So just to clarify, I am the only failed winner of the Hoag Robinson Award. So I've been working with the City of Houston since probably wrote my first letter in 2014, since mid-2015. And one of the things I'll explain to you is why this is such a tough subject. People are afraid of the dark, and it's very hard to get them to understand you're not trying to turn off every light in Houston. We're definitely not trying to do that. I need a clicker here. Oh, and I need to take a picture, it sounds like.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Oops, maybe. Okay. Let me know when you're ready. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about what's light pollution, why it's actually called that, what's a special threat of LED lighting, and again, this is how it's used, not just the fact that they're LEDs. LED lighting can also be the solution. How does white light affect us when it's used at night? Why is fighting light pollution difficult? A couple of the really crack lighting engineers who have been helping us here in Houston. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. So at the end, I'm going to show you a lamp demonstration, which is very easy to do. The lamp only costs $20, and some of you guys might want to take it into your homeowners association. So I'm a member of the Houston Astronomical Society and the International Dark Sky Association, and that was founded in 1988 by David Crawford and Tim Hunter, who are from Tucson. They were initially trying to protect the skies around Kitt Peak Observatory. There's a number of professional observatories around Tucson. They realize if you use lighting a certain way, you get the light you need in the city, but you minimize the light outside the city. So just keep it down on the ground where you need it. And they founded this because we had not been using lighting that way and to educate the public. Why is it called pollution? Well, here's the sterile dictionary definition of pollution: the contamination of air, water, or soil by substances that are harmful to living beings. And so why would anyone put the words light and pollution together? Well, this first slide shows you that we actually have a very starry sky above Houston, but because of the lighting, it actually looks a little worse than the slide on the right side. Notice how murky the sky works. So it's very similar to putting pollution in the waterways and air pollution, which turns the air murky. So in that respect, it takes a beautiful piece of nature and destroys it. So there's also health aspects, which all pollution has. So when you have white light outside your bedroom, that can result in poorer sleep quality. That results in people eating a little bit more, so you can have all of the ills with obesity, diabetes, depression, which might be related to some of the problems that we heard in the last talk. And there's also a cancer risk. And the mechanism for that is that the blue frequency light that we're now using at night suppresses the hormone melatonin, which our bodies produce naturally at night to help us sleep. When that color of light is outside of our bedrooms, the melatonin disappears. It turns out that certain cancers, hormone-based ones like breast and prostate and colorectal, grow more slowly when melatonin is present in your body. So the easy thing is just turn off the lights. I was told I had to keep it short, so thank you very much. Actually, that's what you might do around the Dark Sky Park, which the International Dark Sky Association has been very successful. We have now quite a few dark sky parks around the world. But for most of us, we still need some light. So they have a very simple message. You want to get light fixtures which actually cover up the light source, so you don't see the light bulb when looking at it from the side. Well, the result of that is it points all the light downward at the ground. All of that light in the upper picture, which you see going up into the sky, is not really helping light the buildings or the sidewalk or the roads that you need to see. The dark area there is actually the beach, and you might want to keep that dark. And if you have lighting surrounding you, like in the bottom picture, you get dark adapted pretty fast. So even when you're in an unlit area, it's not scary because you can see in the dark. So let's talk about street lighting first, which is the tough row we've had in Houston to try to get the proper LED street lighting. Previous to LEDs, we had mercury vapor, and then about 40 years ago, we got high pressure sodium, which is a familiar amber color lighting we've had all these years in Houston. That was considered a more energy efficient solution. And coincident with that, we had metal halide, which has a whiter color but works similarly to the high pressure sodium. Then came shielded versions of those, not so much in Houston, but Tucson, for instance, and Phoenix had, and California had shielded versions of the high pressure sodium. So enter the new kid on the block. This is LED. And I have a video here.
Behold, the light-emitting diode, or LED. But where did it come from? Meet Nick Hollingham, Jr., born in Illinois in 1928. Although Nick was born in the U.S., his parents had immigrated from the Carpathian Mountains of Europe. During Nick's childhood, his father traveled widely, working primarily as a miner. Nick was the first member of his family to receive formal schooling. Eventually, Nick earned a PhD in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois. During this time, he worked with Dr. John Bardeen, who later co-invented the transistor. Over the course of his career, Nick has made numerous discoveries, improvements, and breakthroughs, but he's best known for one invention that outshines the rest, the light-emitting diode, or LED. But what is it exactly? First, let's start with diodes. Diodes are simple semiconductors, and the conductor material is usually aluminum, gallium, arsenide. The flow of electrons in this material can produce light more efficiently than a traditional incandescent bulb. LEDs last much longer than light bulbs, and they produce much less heat. For this achievement, Nick is sometimes known as the father of the light-emitting diode. As subsequent researchers revised his invention, the LED has spread out from labs at General Electric to countries, cities, and homes throughout the planet.
Oops, not. See if I can get it to advance. The next slide. There we go. So what is different about LED lighting versus the previous lighting? One thing is that it's a point source. So LEDs are very small and the light is very directed. It's sort of the concentrated shampoo version of lighting. Almost works a little bit more like a laser. So it's highly directional, which is why when you look directly at LEDs, they hurt your eyes so much compared to previous light sources. White is one of the cheapest colors of LED to make, and it's widely adopted. It also happens to be the highest resolution color, so notice how sharp everyone looks in this room. And this is one of the things that makes it a little bit hard for city officials to understand. Don't you want that sharpness at night? But it does come in many different colors. And it's instant on, which is great. When the street lights come on, they don't have to warm up. It's also dimmable, so some cities are putting in dimmable controls, and you can have different amounts of brightness at night. They're also great at converting energy directly into light without going through heat. So the LED bulbs in my house, I can actually touch them when they've been on for hours, and that's great in Houston. They're not heating up your house during the summer. And then they have extreme longevity, so you don't have to change them nearly as often. These are great characteristics, actually. The downside is that they are so inexpensive, you can negate the climate change aspect. People are now they may use 6 times less energy, but that does you no good if people put in 6 times as much lighting, because and then use it indiscriminately. So about 3/4 of that light is actually going to blinding drivers rather than lighting the parking lot there. So you can have the same amount of light on the parking lot minus the blindness and use about 1/4 of the light. So I actually heard a talk in 2007 by Tim Hunter. These are the founders of the International Dark Sky Association. And back then he said, LED is coming. We are afraid that when it gets adopted by cities, they will choose the whiter color before the warmer technology has become more well-developed and more efficient. So sure enough, in 2014, Houston announced LED lighting. They told me I would be thrilled. It's going to be pointed downward, but it's going to be a color called 4000K, which is a neutral white color. And having heard this talk, I was like, uh-oh. So I wrote my first letter back then. I was trying to figure out how do you explain to people that at night, brighter is not always better. So I don't know if there are any Hitchcock fans out there. This is one of my favorite movies, Rear Window. I'm sorry if you haven't seen the movie yet. This is the most climactic scene, but it makes my point. So this Jimmy Stewart is witnessed a murder, and he's in a wheelchair. And this is the murderer confronting him.
Your friend, a girl, could have turned me in. Why didn't she? What is it you want? A lot of money? I don't have any money. Say something. Say something. Tell me what you want. Can you get me that ring back? No. Tell her to bring it back. I can't. The police have it on now.
So that only works up to a point. And you'll have to watch the movie to see what happens after that. But I don't know, one thing I was really pleased with in this video is that he also hides his eyes before he takes the picture to preserve his own night vision relative to the intruder. So this is an extreme case, but brighter is not always better at night. So LEDs, because they're so directional, they can either be a nightmare for light pollution. I actually took these pictures with my cell phone. On the left side is the Dallas Doubletree near Love Field, and I was on the 7th floor. I had not one but 2 of these lights aiming up at my window, probably because they wanted to light up the side of the building. And you can see how bad it is. It was even with the blackout shades. I had this white glow in my room all night. I think I finally pulled out the sleep mask, but it was hard to sleep there. Conversely, I was in Geneva, Switzerland to see CERN, and I was staying right downtown, in the middle of downtown. And about the 3rd of my 4 nights there, I finally opened the drapes. I'd been sleeping great. I was on the 5th floor. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is a warm glow below my window, exactly like what I've been trying to tell the city council about. And I ran downstairs. I got dressed again, ran downstairs. And I found that the entire downtown area, there were people in the cafes, had this soft, warm glow. There was not one dark shadow anywhere in downtown Geneva, Switzerland. And sure enough, these were LED lights. So this is the first warm colored, a little bit warm white side, which is what we want for the sky and for human health and plant health that I saw. And it was wonderful. This slide just shows you how much light you really need. So the other problem is that even if you do point the lighting down, we sometimes overdo that. So you can see, I don't know if it shows up well with the lights here, but you can see that you can go down quite a bit. And the thing is that when you dim a light, your eye doesn't see, for instance, 50% dimmed as 50% less bright. Because when there's less glare, your eye can see the resultant light better. So a lighting engineer said that if you dim a light 50%, your eye sees it as 70% as bright as full bright. And we will show you this effect with the lamp a little bit later on. So besides pointing downward, the International Dark Sky Association says just use the minimum amount of light you need to see well. If we don't, this is what's happening. So the world is becoming brighter and brighter. Light pollution is getting 2% worse every year. They're starting to put it in India. Even the dark areas are going to become not so dark. If we're not careful, if we do it right, though, we could actually reverse this effect. So at night, brighter is not better. Why? What's the physiology behind that? Well, the eye has enormous dynamic range. We can see brightness from 1 to 1/1000th of that same brightness. So we can see a bright sunny day on the left, and after we become dark adapted for about 30 minutes, we can see a very dark sky, starry sky on the right. The problem is we can't see that all at once. So our eye adapts to the brightest thing in the field, and if that's a very bright LED or bulb, after a certain point below that, everything turns black. And these are areas that you would actually be able to see if that light were shielded. Same thing, this is why the white headlights are bothering us and we can't see around the car at all. I've actually had to come close to dead stops on a dark road, or one time I saw 8 of them in a row, and that just about completely made the road disappear. So this shows you that this happens in real time. This is not a matter of your pupils shrinking down and you have to wait for it to open up to see. You can get an instantaneous effect, and we will practice that later on, or with your neighbor's bad light, you can show them. There is the man behind the gate is in both pictures, the left and the right. But the problem with fighting this is people focus on what they can see. So notice there's plenty of light. We can see a good part of that yard on the left side, but people have no idea what they're not seeing on the right side. So glare is the enemy of the night. That hazy effect that you saw on the left side was hiding the man actually has a name. It's called veiling luminance, and modern lighting calculations calculate for that. So they're now looking at how does the eye actually perceive the light, not just how much light is there. Okay, so why is there glare? Well, part of it's brightness, but part of it is also color, and that's the other concern with the whiter color of the LEDs at night. So the warmer part of the spectrum, the redder side or the yellower side, that light has longer wavelengths. On the bluer side of the spectrum, it has shorter wavelengths. Unfortunately, it's the exact same phenomenon. The shorter wavelength and your pupil shrinking down to the maximum with the white light like we have in this room, which makes things appear especially sharp. But the problem is there's a downside. You want to split the difference. So that's the same phenomenon. The blue light scatter is 10 times worse than the red light in the atmosphere. That is, if your kids ask you, why is the sky blue? That's why. The sun puts out all colors of light, but the shortest wavelength is what scatters the most, and that's what we see when we look at the blue sky. I have to give you a quick tutorial on how light color is described in light bulbs, and it'll help you when you're buying light bulbs also. So there is a term called correlated color temperature, or CCT, and it's confusing because it's describing a light color using a temperature. All you need to know is that the reason they use that temperature, like 2700 degrees Kelvin or 5000 degrees Kelvin, is that this is the color a piece of iron heated up to that temperature would glow. So it's really a description of a color, it's not how hot the light bulb is. What you need to know is the higher the number, in the fives and sevens, the bluer the light, and the lower the number, the warmer or yellower the light. So for familiar light sources, the one on the far left, the 2200K, is like our old street lights, like high pressure sodium. It's an amber color. The 2700K is the familiar soft white light bulb. 3000K is halogen. And 5000K are the light bulbs labeled daylight. So just to kind of give you some benchmarks there. This shows you the problem for glare for the eyes by color. So all 4 of these lights are actually the same color. The same brightness. So if you would take a light meter, measure how much light they're putting on the ground, it would measure the same amount of light. But notice how on the far right, the glare is a lot harder on your eyes. And on the far left, where it's still white, but it's a warmer color, it's a lot easier. Now you want to multiply this by 179,000 Houston streetlights, and unfortunately now TxDOT is starting on the freeways too. And do you want to look at we're using the 4,000K, the second from the right. Do you want to look at that for 179,000 lights, or do you want to look at the softer color? The state of Georgia is using the 3000K. They said their complaints went down 80% when they switched to that color. But they also admitted to using more light than necessary, so that's probably why it wasn't 100%. And I have let me see if it'll do this. So the right answer, if it comes up, there. Okay, so this is the first picture I could find on the internet when talking to the city council, and it was convincing to them. This is a German street. The light on the left is actually metal halide, but notice it's, again, what people focus on is look how clear it is under the street lights. What they don't notice is how black it looks around the street lights. That's why Houston has all this light and yet the streets still seem fairly dark. On the right side, same poles. They didn't use more poles than normal. This is the first warm LED street light I could find online. This is a German street, found in an Osram catalog. And notice that the spaces between the streetlights you can see in there. So it looks more uniform just because of the physiology of your eye. Okay, this is the best thing since sliced bread. So in the audience somewhere is Steve Goldberg, who's been helping me with photography and giving some talks. He's in a light blue shirt over here. In case you have any questions, he can also help answer them. After an outreach at a Houston area school, Jim King had the idea of taking this video. There's actually only one security light in the middle. The second one is a reflection in an adjacent school building. When I turn on the video, it's 19 seconds. You're going to see Steve's wife, Amelia, walk from left to right. Notice what happens when she gets in front of the bright white security light that's supposed to be protecting the school.
Okay. It says recording, I guess.
This is very casual. So double the trouble. Right, so there's double the trouble with a reflection there. Once you show your neighbor with a bright glary light this, or have them hold up their hand and see how much more of their house they can see, you don't have to speak a million words like I am today. That will do it. See if I can advance beyond this. Okay, so the other problem is light health and the environment. Sometimes people will say, well, these LED lights we're using are natural lights, like the white color is natural. It's only natural during the daytime. So all of humanity, all animals, all plants evolved on an Earth where what happened to light after the sun set is it reddened, it became warmer. So we had sunsets are redder. The firelight that ancient humans used is also a warmer color. And therefore, the body developed a signal to create melatonin at night to help you sleep. And that's signaled by not all light disappearing, but specifically blue frequency light disappearing. So this just shows the pattern. Again, the sun sets and the melatonin rises in your body, and then the sun comes up and it goes away. This is what's supposed to happen. However, with the white LED streetlights and white security lights, this is short-circuited. You now have daylight outside of your windows, and it doesn't take a lot, actually. You can just have a dim glow in your room, and it can short-circuit the formation of melatonin. So it's better to use a warmer light outside your house or to get the thick blackout shades. Unfortunately, we need to do that now. Also, sometimes cities will say, well, it's exactly the same color as moonlight. What's the problem? Moonlight is very white light from the sun reflected off of a warmer surface and toned down. LEDs are made by mixing colors, and the white LEDs that we're using for our streetlights have a very strong spike in the exact part of the blue spectrum which suppresses melatonin. So the other problem is that the street light is 30 times brighter than even the full moon and thousands of times brighter than a crescent moon. So for a short time outside your window, you might have the full moon every month. 24/7, a lot of people are bothered by having a light like that outside of their bedroom. Okay, so I may not have time to go into all the health aspects. I have some talk about the cancer. This is Dr. Richard Stevens, who unfortunately we just lost in August, but he was the first one to postulate that there was a rise in breast cancer. He was thinking, what has changed in the environment? People weren't really eating differently. This was in the 1980s. He realized that cities were really ramping up their lighting. Since then, there's been thousands of studies which are corroborating that. Most recently, which I think is most striking, we've compared Madrid and Barcelona white lit neighborhoods. They were one of the earlier adopters of white LED street lighting versus warmly lit neighborhoods. They also did some indoor light exposure questionnaires. And they found this on an exact sliding scale. The more white light they were exposed to at night, the people in the white neighborhoods had twice the prostate cancer, 1.5 times the breast cancer, and they're about to publish on colorectal cancer. It was also almost twice in the white lit neighborhoods. So this is actually fairly serious, but it's something that's invisible to people. This is Dr. Mario Mata. These stories have been so striking that the American Medical Association came out with a paper. Actually, it was their third comment, but it was their strongest yet in July of 2016. Of course, we sent this to the city thinking this would do it, but no. Because of the glare issues I've showed you and the health issues, they recommended the cities use only the warm whites, 3000 K and below, and actually many cities are doing that. Houston is the last major city not to switch. So what about everyone else? This is a nature talk, so let's get into nature here. Starting with plants, notice that this tree dropped all of its leaves except for the ones closest to the light here. So it disrupts the signals that plants need. One of the signals they go by is the relative length of day versus night. That's how they know it's becoming autumn. When you have an artificial light nearby, they don't see the daylight get shorter and shorter. This is one of my favorites, the soybean field. What's wrong with this picture? Do I have a pointer? Yeah, I do. So notice over here, the soybean field went haywire. It's actually, the brown is good. That happens when the soybeans go to seed. But notice what we have here. We've got a road, and it's a little hard to see, but there's street lights all the way along that road. There's also been a recent study in Switzerland on nighttime pollination, which we talked about earlier. So they set up observers all night long in a dark field versus a white lit field, and found that there was 62% fewer visits, pollination visits to that field. Sea turtles are sort of the poster child of the International Dark Sky Association. The mother plants the eggs in the beach, and then when the sea turtles hatch, they need to hightail it to the ocean. And throughout nature, for the last millennia, until we came along, they would use a reflection of the sun or moonlight or even starlight on the water to find which way is the ocean. When we have now these well-developed beaches, the sea turtles sometimes go the other way. Here are tracks of confused baby sea turtles. And there's a recent video done where sea turtles were, apparently the people who did the video saved the sea turtles and pointed them the right way. There is a solution. So Galveston needs this. We have sea turtles there. There are now street lights for sea turtles, and this one actually has dual function. So just during sea turtle season, it can turn a much warmer amber color, and then the rest of the time it can be more of a warm white. Fireflies are going away. Just the other day, my Uncle Jerry, not knowing I was going to give this talk, said, you know what I really miss? Fireflies. There's pesticides are part of the problem, but fireflies mate by communicating with each other through blinking patterns, and our light is encroaching on more and more what used to be natural habitat. Migratory birds are having problems. The gist of this cartoon is, no, that's not the right solution to wear sunglasses like the birds on the wire there. So here, this is actually a story a few months ago in Houston, what the problem is.
Starting with this, 600 million birds will smack into a building this year.
And a new study by Cornell University shows Houston is the second most dangerous for migrating birds. As Josh Marshall shows us, one simple step could make our city safer for those flocks.
This study is opening a lot of eyes to this topic, but perhaps the most attention this has ever gotten locally happened in Galveston. 398 birds crashed into a Galveston high-rise in 2017. All but 3 of the warblers died.
It's always devastating.
After the Galveston tragedy, Dr. Richard Gibbons and the Houston Audubon Society took action. They partnered with American National in Galveston and made changes to the building to prevent another accident.
They turned their lights off, and it became a conservation victory, a business that truly led and wanted to be part of the solution.
Now, in the face of being labeled the second most dangerous city for migratory birds, Houston Audubon is calling on the city of Houston to become part of the same solution.
We can take action to reduce that risk. So we ask people to take a pledge.
Bird conservationists want homeowners and businesses with high-rise buildings to turn off unnecessary lights from at least April 19th to May 7th. That's when 50% of this year's migratory birds will pass through Houston.
That's what we've asked people, if they will help us take a pledge and make the Houston area a safer place for migratory birds.
Getting involved in taking that pledge doesn't require a lot of work, even just turning off the lights. To find out how, just go to khou.com. In Houston, Josh Marshall, KHOU 11 News.
There's also bat-friendly lighting. This is in the Netherlands. So this neighborhood decided to protect its bats with red lights. Now, not every species needs this. Some bats absolutely adore can tolerate the whiter lights, and they have a feeding frenzy with all the insects that are attracted. But many species of bats, for instance, there's a highway that was lit this way to make a bat crossing because they were stopping before getting to their insect feeding field. So that was a very recent story. So it is possible for the humans to see and the animals to do okay, if people think this matters. And then if all else fails, this will convince everybody. I love this video. I don't know if you've heard about the grasshopper invasion recently in Las Vegas. Okay, thanks.
That's the trick of the business, man, because a lot of people don't pull up here to get gas, you know.
Okay, so I wanted to get through the business impact, and we have had a grasshopper invasion in Houston. I remember when Jones Hall was covered with green grasshoppers. Expect the next one to be much worse. We have a lot of white light in Houston. Whoops, let me see if I can get forward here. Okay, so I looked high and low on YouTube to see if anyone had filmed a white light next to an amber one, and sure enough, I found it. There's also, not on YouTube, there's also a news story. The grasshoppers can't really see the amber light. There was also a recent study that said, surprisingly, that warm white LED lights tested even better than bug lights at repelling insects. Amber is going to turn out to be better for the night sky, but warm white works great. Just don't do the bright white. So advocating has been very difficult in Houston. It takes generally about 2 years from the first time you try to advocate to cities making changes. Many have, but we're still having a little trouble in Houston. We may be making some progress. This is one of the ways that the press does not help us. Notice who gets the last word.
Some residents in the North Bay community have resorted to wearing them to block out what they say are overly bright new streetlights.
Yeah, they get your attention. ABC 7 News reporter Kate Larson has the story now from San Rafael.
You can see how it just blinded me in my eyes.
Elise Leolin says this streetlight took her by surprise when one night last month it lit up her little street on an otherwise dark San Rafael hilltop.
I was really upset. I was upset because I love the night.
Elise and about 100 other San Rafael residents have complained to the city about how bright and white the new LEDs are compared to the dimmer yellow light cast by the old high-pressure sodium streetlights.
The neighbors are noticing the difference in that.
Bill Guerin is the director of public works in San Rafael. He says the city took out an $800,000 loan to pay for the 2,700 new LED streetlights. So far, 2,400 have been installed. Guerin says wherever neighbors have complained about the LEDs, the city may install dimmers or light shields.
If a light is shining back from the street light to someone's house, putting a shield behind the light will block that light from going to the residence.
While Ailey's is protecting her eyes at night with sunglasses, her neighbor says he likes the new look.
This is a problem.
I think this neighborhood is far too dark. We've had trouble with robberies, break-ins into the mailboxes. They're not that significantly more bright than the old lights.
The LED lights are expected to save $175,000 in yearly electrical costs.
Okay, so we have that. I've seen hundreds of these stories. Every single one, including the one when they interviewed me, the very last word is someone who likes the lighting. The problem is people are comparing two bad forms of lighting. There's something better than both the old and the new. So we've had a story out of Galveston also. I think I can go back to my clicker. This light is still going, these are still going up. This was recently installed in Sugar Land. Fortunately, Fort Bend Engineering told me they are getting alarmed by that. We might get some help from them. This is about crime. This is the first night a Houston LED street light went up. This is a next door listing. An SUV was stolen right out from under the LED street light. Why might that happen? These are not helpful because in order to cut out this kind of light from your windows, this is in Brooklyn, you have to put up the thickest blackout shades. And that's what people will tell you. Don't be a complainer, just put up blackout shades. Like every bedroom, you actually get rid of neighborhood awareness. If a motion detector light goes off, you're not even going to notice it in your cloistered off bedroom. So Steve and I go to these neighborhoods all the time, take pictures. We feel like we could do anything out there. They are ghost towns. And then there are some good streetlights out there. Cree is not the only one, but they definitely have the best ad. I want to make sure you see this one.
Energy cost saving what your city needs, with warm color temperatures and low glare your citizens want. Utilizing Cree's patented WaveMax technology, it directs light where it's needed and away from people's bedrooms. The groundbreaking, nobody will want to saw it down. Cree RSW Street.
So one comment about the aesthetics. I don't know if there are any, I know there's at least one Stranger Things fan out there. 5 minutes, okay, great. It occurred to me that Hollywood uses color of light to set a mood. So in the Netflix hit Stranger Things, it's also set in the 80s when we had warm light, notice that the normal dimension is warmly lit and the scary upside down dimension with the man invading gooey stuff is lit with forbidding lighting. Now, in case you're not into Netflix and streaming, you're of my generation, I have a baby boomer version of this slide. So the question is, would you rather live on the Hallmark Channel or Addams Family? And to tell you the truth, my lawn looks exactly like the Addams Family lawn there under my LED street light. So this is real street light. So that's mine on the left, and that was the view from my bedroom. This is the ones I saw in California that our lighting engineer advisors are putting in. On the right side, it's a soft glow. Even though this is taken from above, I was on the ground. You cannot see the LEDs from the next street light over. For as long as I have, I'm just going to show you some good versus bad. That's highway lighting. Unfortunately, TxDOT has chosen the white color. Working on them now. We need as many people to say something, but every freeway, this has been done a lot of 288, every freeway, every toll road, right now the freeways are a relief to our eyes. They're going to become high glare also if we don't do something. Okay, I think I can do this. Shell stations are great. A lot of them have been converted. It was the first warm LED lighting I saw. This is 59 in Westland. That's the Exxon across the street. Steve Goldberg had a quick eye, noticed that a car that was filling up was leaving without its lights on. And it was turned all the way onto the 59 feeder road with its lights still off. And I'm seeing a lot more of that. So don't assume a car with its lights off that's a drunk driver. They may have just simply left a parking lot that looks like that. In fact, some people said it'll actually turn off their automatic lights. This is good sports field lighting. This is only 100. This is from the neighborhood that's 150 feet away. You can find this on the IDA website. Indoors, just a quick note, if you want to also save your eyes from the white light as you're winding down, this is the best thing since sliced bread. It's a Philips scene switch. You can get it on Amazon. I think you can get the floodlights in Lowe's or Home Depot, but it comes in floodlights with a flip of the switch, no dimmer needed. You go from daylight, which I actually like mixing with window light in my shower, to warm white to half bright amber. Great for bedside lamps in bathrooms. And then for your computers and cell phones, all screen makers have known about this for years, and they've all had ways to take the blue backlight out at night. So I have f.lux. When I'm sending these late night emails, I'm looking at a coral colored computer screen. So what can you do? We need to have people to keep nudging the city council. Mayor Turner asked us to send some streetlight information to the Climate Action Committee. I think they're finally starting to listen. The problem here has been an antiquated lighting calculation method. Everybody else has switched to a more recent one. Actually, the 2018 version incorporates one used since 2014. And it calculates for that how the eye sees the light, not how much light actually is measured on the street. And this is a 14-watt warm white street light, the one that Chris Monrad recommended we try in Houston when I described my street. 1/3 of the wattage is the light of in front of my house. Los Angeles went down about a third on all size streets when we copied Los Angeles. They said, this was a mistake 2 years ago, or 3 years ago actually, and the city didn't believe me, but I think they finally do. So I'm gonna end here. So what I'm gonna do is show you a lamp demonstration, which you can do, is very easy to do, and you can do in your neighborhood, and the lamp only costs $20. While they're darkening the room a little bit, let me get the lamp on so it doesn't get to be pitch dark. This lamp has 5 colors and 7 brightness levels. And I can take a cup, we may not need much time. Are we able to turn off the lights also? Is that doable? Or at least most of them?
I don't know, they're back there pushing buttons.
Okay. Yeah, you do need some darkness. I have done this in a, if you have a really, yeah.
No, that's the screens.
There we go, yay. Okay, so I'm gonna do this, can we turn off the screen? I'm going to do this in 2 different directions. I've done this entire auditoriums. But what's important to notice is you're always going to see the guy underneath the light. What's going to change is the guy behind the light. So my first demonstration is a horrible bright white, blue-white security light. So I'm going to go to this side first. So I'm going to tilt this partly to you. Is that, okay, is that, the idea is that if you have the right tilt, it should obscure the guy behind, and you should be able to see him again. I hope we can get that off. If you put your hand in front of the light, the guy, Worf back there with his knife, should turn up if I have a little light on him. The street lights are this middle brightness, and they are not quite as much glare. I'm guessing here, but if you just see a sliver of light, you'll see Worf. But again, he will be better if you block the light. Now I can level the light, and even with white light, is that level so no one's seeing glare on this side? Okay, you see both guys clearly, but who can sleep with that? Oh, by the way, one other point I want to make. The people who sell lighting and energy love this, that you think you need another light back there. You don't, okay? So it's like, oh great, we can sell twice as many lights if we do it too bright, and twice as much energy. So what happens if I just turn it to a warmer color, that we can sleep better? Okay, you can see both of them very clearly. What happens is I dim it. Let's dim it gradually. How dim can I go and have you see the back guy even better than the first time? So we can go all the way down to actually the dimmest or the second dimmest, and have something that works great in a residential area where people are sleeping. On the major streets, you just turn it up. That's what's happening in Phoenix, Tucson, New York City now, Los Angeles, Chicago is doing all the warmer color. So you guys want to see it? Let me just do that real quick. So I'm going back to the super white, and I'm gonna blast your eyes out for a minute. I'm gonna put Worf over here. Oh yeah, so I explain away the toys. This is the only action figures I have, but it's also great for color rendition. The police say they want to see color. And one slide I didn't show you that's very important, but it's on our website, is that Art Acevedo ordered a change to recommend shielded, warm, soft shielded lighting for best visual efficacy in the burglary prevention brochure. And I just read that the Dallas Police Department's also recommending that. So the police are becoming on our side. They're finally, and that really helps when working with the city. So again, I'm blasting you guys with light, I hope, and try blocking it and see if Worf back here shows up a little more sharply, even though he has a little less light on him. Okay, and then we're going to do the street lights have a little less glare, so you'll see him, but he'll be a little less sharp than if you block the light. We can level the light. We can turn to the warmest color, where it's more comfortable for sleeping and for driving long distances, and then we can keep dimming it. So for residential areas, you can go quite dim, first or second, see Wharf actually better than the high glare light, and we can just brighten it a little bit for the major streets.
Okay, we're going to have to proceed.
And that's it, okay?
Can we have the lights back up, please? Thank you very much. Need some lights. Whoa. It's bright. I want to thank you very much for a great presentation. A few questions from the audience. Oh.
There's one back there.
Right there.
Hi, so if you already have LEDs like in your courtyard, I live in a condominium.
Curtain's got to go down.
Is there instead of replacing the lights, is there a way to put some kind of colored cover to have the same effect? Will it work?
Well, only if the manufacturer makes something, or you might be able to jury rig something. The other thing is you can try to re-aim them. So the best thing is just to get different colored LEDs, but I have heard that some manufacturers can make a filter that goes over it, but it probably depends on the manufacturer. But that would be kind of the quick solution.
So nothing homemade?
If you want to make homemade, that'd be great. I've certainly seen people paint the backs of our decorative lighting black, but homemade might work also, maybe a gel or filter. The problem might be durability, but that might work at least temporarily.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I really love this talk. I learned so much, and I'm just wondering what resources you can share that I could use to share some of this knowledge with my friends and family.
Right, I forgot to do that slide. So the International Dark Sky Association has a website called darksky.org. And then there's a Texas IDA website, which those have really great information for how to talk to your neighbors and how to talk to city councils. But we found there was a bit of a shortage of good quality LED lighting. I think you have to tell people not only what not to do, but what to do. So we've just been finding it and gathering pictures from the internet or ones we've taken and created softlighthouston.com. And so I have some cards here to remind you of the name, but softlighthouston is one word.com, not .org. I probably should have done that, but it's .com. And there's a gallery. I beta tested on my mom, found go to the pictures first. So the enter button will take you straight to the gallery. And then there's an education page. There is a contact page that goes to my personal email if you have any questions. And we found it to be very effective. In fact, that's what convinced the police to change their lighting guidelines. They looked at the website.
Thank you.
Got some more questions there? Oh, I'll get you next.
Yeah, and I have some cards up here for the website.
My question is, you said something about the type of lighting you're trying to convince the city to switch to. Specifically, what is that, and who do we write?
Okay, it may be hard. I mean, the reason I started on this with beforehand was because it's hard to get a change of actually already installed lighting, but there are a few areas that are not installed yet. I would also suggest getting your block together. The new lighting is so much lower wattage than even our recently installed lighting. I would write the city and say, we would like to test the warmer color and at the 14 or 17 watts. Mayor Turner has expressed some interest. Maybe this will happen. He asked us to send numbers to the Climate Action Committee. If you can, for me, I'm willing to pay for it. If you can get your block to somehow ask for it, the city from then on, since they have a tariff agreement based on the white lights, would save money on your block. They probably can't change the whole tariff agreement. If you're in an area that still doesn't have LED streetlights, there's a chance, and I also wanted to mention this because League City is looking into the warmer lights. We are getting a lot of pushback from Centerpoint. There's Martha K. Six Tatum, the city council woman, actually asked them in a meeting with us, if I asked for a warm light, could I get it? And they said no. But Fort Bend County Engineering is interested. If there's economy of scale ideas, we've been telling the city to call Fort Bend County. They want to know what the Woodlands are doing. The Woodlands haven't changed over yet. So if you can combine lighting orders with larger communities, and that's what I'm trying to get going, is to get enough interest in the outskirts that any lighting that gets changed is cheaper. There's nothing more expensive about the 2700K per se. The only thing is economy of scale. That can lower the costs.
Got a question right down here.
Yes, thank you very much. This was very, very educational.
Could you speak up just a little bit?
I wanted to ask you, you said that warm LED lights are better for bug protection than actually the yellow lights that we buy. Is that correct?
I read there was a study recently, an article about a study, and they said they were surprised. They tested, because the very worst was the white LED lights as far as attracting bugs. But they said they were surprised that the warm, like the 2700K, the warm white LED lights did actually better. I'm not sure why, than the bug lights, that they were the very best. The bug lights came in second. However, from a protecting the night sky aspect and from a human health aspect, the bug lights are going to have even less blue in them. Okay. So I think I would still do the bug lights if you want to sleep well.
So what about cars? Because I have an astigmatism, and so I have to drive with glasses, although I don't need to. And the glare is like some of the pictures that you have, and it's really, really horrible for me driving at night.
Right. So until cities do something, they say that the cheap yellow glasses are not actually the best to get, that your ophthalmologist can actually make a blue blocking glass. So that might be the best solution for now for driving while we have so much white light in the environment. And the automobile, the NHTSB, is that what it is? The safety transportation board is testing headlights for how they affect the oncoming driver too. So recently, half of all new cars had poor rating, but I was encouraged to see that there's a BMW concept car that bragged about its warm LED light. So I hope that's going to go away. I actually think it'll be impossible to drive when every car has the white headlights.
Are there any more questions out there? I think you're right. You answered every question in your presentation. No more?
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.